Well, September has flown by, and now students across the country have already been in school for a month, which our next guest says is the perfect time to start figuring out how they're doing even before those first report cards go home. With more, we are joined by math positivity expert Vanessa Vakharia. Good to have you back on your morning.
It's so great to be here.
Report cards are coming out soon, at least in Ontario, varies sort of across the country. You say now is the time to assess whether or not your kids need that extra academic support. Why now?
Well, okay, remember when you took driving lessons maybe and they said take a proactive instead of a, defensive driving instead of reactive? That's kind of the approach you want to take. By the time report cards come out, we have moved to mostly a semester system in high school in Ontario. By the time report cards come out, that's halfway through the semester. It's a little late. Right now, there are a lot of secret indications as to whether or not your child is doing well that you can tap into instead of waiting for report cards.
Okay, you have 3 warning signs that we need to keep an eye on. First is a bad test score. That seems pretty obvious.
Okay.
But why is it important to know these grades?
Okay, so first of all, the bad test score is obvious, but what's not obvious is whether your kid has had a test or not. So we tutor at the Math Guru. We have hundreds of students, and often tutors will ask their students, have you had a test yet? And they'll get a sheepish sort of, no, we haven't gotten it back yet, or no, we haven't had a test. I promise you, if you're watching this right now, your kid has had a test. It's been a month. So I think the trick is to let your kid know that it's a safe space, that you just want to know how they did on their test, not because you care about the actual mark, but because you want to know how they're doing. Often kids feel a lot of shame around their tests. They don't want to tell you if they did poorly, but knowing how they're doing is a signpost on their journey. So just encourage your kid to show you what the test is, regardless of the result.
The second one you say to watch out for doesn't actually have to do with a grade, but it has to do with your child, and that is big meltdowns over homework.
So, okay. Kids don't love homework. That's not breaking news. But what you might want to look for is while your kid is doing homework, are you hearing negative self-talk? Are you seeing them kind of like, hit the table in frustration? Are they crying? Like, we see meltdowns over math homework all the time. And it's not just a sign that kids don't want to do homework. It might be a sign that there's something going on. They really don't understand what's going on in class. They really can't get to that next piece in their homework. So those are signs to look for. And a good intervention is to pause your kid, not get mad at them for not doing the work, but to say, hey, how are you feeling? Like, what's going on? Why are you crying? Why are you frustrated? And you'll find that they're not going to necessarily say, oh, I don't want to do homework. But the more you talk to them, they might say things like, I just can't understand how to do this. I don't feel smart. I don't feel like I'm keeping up with the class. Those are things you want to look for so you can plan an intervention.
And then how can you alleviate some of that stress?
I honestly think number one thing is to talk to the teacher. The teacher has a good idea of what's going on. In fact, often I will find that there's a big disconnect between how the kid feels and how the teacher feels. The kid might feel like, I just don't know what's going on. And the teacher might say, they missed one concept. They're actually really great in class. This one thing is stressing them out. And that's a quick fix. Get a tutor, ask the teacher for help, ask a friend for help, go on Khan Academy and get a resource. Now, it might be a bigger thing and the teacher might say, yeah, consistently they're underperforming. And that's when you want to look into something a bit bigger. But I think that disconnect or that connect between teacher and student is very important.
Some teachers have stopped assigning homework in some school boards. They don't send homework home. Everything is done in class. What can you do in that situation?
So I think in that situation, and I know it's hard to do, is to really talk to your kid. Simply asking the question, how's school going? How's math class going?
And what if they say fine?
Yeah, and if they say fine, I would ask more probing questions. So I would start saying things like, oh, what are you learning right now? See if they can come up with an answer, or if they just say, oh, I don't know, right? Have you had an evaluation yet? Have you had an assessment? A lot of schools, you'll find, in addition to moving away from homework, are moving towards different types of assessments. They're not necessarily tests. Maybe your kid actually hasn't had a test, but they've had a project, they've had a study thing, whatever. So you want to see those results. If you have, we all know those kids that just aren't talking to us, it really is time to reach out to the teacher. I would write a sweet, nice email saying, hey, just want to check in. My kid isn't that talkative. I just want to make sure they're doing okay and that you don't need anything from me.
Finally, let's talk about avoidance. What should we look for there?
So, okay, kids saying, I don't want to go to school, I have a stomach ache. We all know these are signs of potential anxiety. Again, I really think it's important to pry as to where the feelings are coming from, especially younger kids do not know there's a connection between physical symptoms and how you're emotionally feeling. So if you're having a kid who really doesn't want to go to school every day, who has a headache every morning, I would even recommend saying, did you know that there's actually a connection? Sometimes when we're stressed or we're nervous or we're scared, it manifests in our physical body. Give a story from your own life so your kid doesn't feel alone, and start seeing if there might be something there.
Catching it early is always the best way to go.
It's the best. You've lots of time. It's so early in the year. Don't panic. You know, kids are stressed. They're back in school. It's a crazy time, so catch it early and you've got a lot of hope.
Great advice and good timing. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.